They put me on a disciplinary by saying a stinking, dirty paedophile should have gone to jail. And I was absolutely cast out for saying that because he was one of the superstars. But the man was a weirdo. Over my dead body would my son have that jab. And there's no politician in Wales, in the Welsh Parliament, talking about this. We've got to root out the corruption. I don't call it, the title of my book will be called Corruption Bay. Not Cardiff Bay, it's Corruption Bay. And maybe there's a couple of you guys out there, and you may want to be worried about a few things coming out, believe me. We're losing our freedoms. Lots of freedoms have gone already. Those guys should not be making decisions on our lives, all right? And the fact that they do, it's your fault, it's my fault, it's their fault. We've got to get together with a movement of people called Propel, the People's Movement. Okay, we've got to change things. We have to.
The Central Club.
What's going on, people? Welcome to the Central Club. This episode is brought to you by Re-Inspire Printing and the Fairwater Hotel. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the club, and hit the bell button to be notified of future content. Today, we have a part 2 for you guys. A lot of our followers have grown over the last 1 or 2 years, and in our first year, we've done a lot of interesting guests, and I think a lot of people who follow us now might have not seen those guests. So I thought it was fitting with what's going on in the world, things evolving, that it would be good to get a previous guest on early on. And that's what we got today. We've got a part 2. This man is the leader of the party Propel, and he's also a legal consultant specialising in family law, wills and probate. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you, Mr. Neil McEvoy.
Thanks, Colin. Lovely intro, and good to be back. And it's really good to see the show going so well as well, the podcast growing, and some fantastic views.
Yeah,
the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Some controversies, but nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's been this. Well, you know, you're not too shy of any controversies yourself.
No, misunderstood, mate. Honestly,
no.
No.
I remember you told me when you left off the first interview, be controversial like me. I'm only messing. No,
back in the day, that was a strategy to publicise things. A few years back, but I mean, you get older, you mature, move on. So I'm working mainly in law now. Obviously, I'm doing the politics with Propel. I'll always do that. But I'm working as a legal consultant, as you said, with M&B. We're a fighting firm, really, so that suits me. I'm specialising in family law, doing wills, probate, do a bit of criminal as well. And I really I've enjoyed studying law. It's been a fantastic experience the last 3 years, and being able to help people in a different way and get results. For me, it's all about getting results. Yeah. You know, we're only on this planet for a certain amount of time, and I want to achieve things. Yeah. And I'd advise everyone out there to get a will.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you we talk about it off camera, but just for the viewers, I had an experience. Can I look at the camera?
Yeah.
An experience New Year's Eve. And put it this way, one of the things on my mind was that I was glad that I'd made a will. It was pretty hairy.
Yeah.
Mad for 4 hours, thinking that I was going to die, actually. And it turned out to be just a mistake, basically. Yeah. And
but you got the will done.
I got it done. But the interesting thing was, to be serious, when I was given this potential news, and I had to have a brain scan, and New Year's Eve, I didn't expect to be having a brain scan in hospital. But there was nothing wrong at all, and just a few mistakes, really. But it was interesting for me in those few hours thinking about everything. You just think about your family, maybe.
Perspective, yeah.
And because I didn't have time to worry about dying or anything terrible for me. I was more concerned about my son, who's 4, my wife. And it was a real comfort to think, well, I've got a will. Great, that's one less worry. Other things to think about then. I'd not done my billing for work. Oh my God. Because, if I'm on my way later that night, which, given what was said to me, if you have an op, that's a possibility, then you got to put things in perspective very quickly. But 60% of people die without a will, and I think it's a mistake not to get one. So if anyone wants one, give me a shout and we'll sort you out.
I like that. No, I really like that. Well, I think people, if in my mind, it's like I'm very superstitious. I have OCD as well, so it's like putting it out there. It's like you're manifesting. Like I'm worried that if I like start talking about morbid things, maybe I'm manifesting something. I can imagine a lot of people feel that way too, so they block it out, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, we all die, but it was so God, where's this going as a conversation? But honest to God, it was a comfort. There was a lot going on in my head right at that for about those 4 hours, but that was just one thing gone. Well, that's sorted. Don't have to worry about that. And went through the process. Brain scan was fine. There were a few, I suppose, errors, and I was on my way with a couple of tablets for vertigo, basically.
Well, to go back to what you just said before we start, at the beginning, you said, one of your strategies was to be controversial, and you've matured a lot since then. For those people who don't know, you was part of the Plaid Party, wasn't you?
Yeah, I started off in the Workers' Revolutionary Party when I was 15 for a couple of weeks. Then I joined the Labour Party for a long time and just got really sick of the corruption. I then joined Plaid Cymru and found that when I got to the top table, there was absolutely no difference. And I was told to do as they said, agree with the Labour Party and everything, ignore corruption. And in the end, the only thing to do was to start a new party, which we really did not want to do. It was the last thing on earth that I thought we were doing back in 2016. Yeah. But in 2021, Propel got up and running, and we're going forward. And we're going to be a voice of the future in Welsh politics.
So quickly then, just to finish off what I was saying, do you admit then, or do you acknowledge that you probably done things wrong back in your previous time then?
No. No. There's a difference between being controversial and being wrong. Yeah. And what is controversial, Cullen, nowadays, is telling the truth.
It is.
I mean, on this platform, if I say some of the things I think, okay, and if you say some of the things that you may think or may not think,
that are true,
you're going to be censored.
Yeah.
I mean, we're living now in a world where censorship is normalised for young people. When I was growing up, it wasn't. And I'm a big advocate of free speech. I'm on the left politically. I always have been. But I don't really identify with I call them the self-identifying left nowadays. Generally very affluent people, middle-class people. The Labour leader's a millionaire. Mark Drakeford's a millionaire, the leader of Labour in Wales. And I mean, I just, a lot of things have changed, but telling the truth is controversial.
Well, this is
revolutionary, in fact, now.
Well, this is what's really interesting with you, Neil. You are on the left, and even on the first podcast we done, you spoke about being racially abused and stuff like this. And,
yeah.
Even though I have done podcasts with the likes of Tommy Robinson and Calvin Robinson, Lawrence Fox, these people, you have never once private message me telling me how dare you platform this person, you should be cancelled and you're a racist. You have never once done that, and I think that's what's good about you, and that's what's normal and old-fashioned, I would say, compared to what some people are like now who claim to be from the left.
I think I'm old school left. I grew up in the 80s. It was very simple then. We were anti-authoritarianism. We were pro-free speech. We told the truth. We believed in giving people opportunity, and we believed in being fair, which is one of my great motivations in working in law. And I see so many things which are really unfair, and I'm pretty well skilled, to be honest. I'm not trying to boast, but I've got 25 years experience of dealing with children's services in different capacities, and I'm loving using that ability and knowledge, helping families stay together mainly, or putting families back together, because there is so much injustice in Wales. I used to love Wales. I used to love living here, and past tense, there's so much wrong. But I've got a young family, and I just felt it would have been easy. I hated being in the Senedd. 5 years in that sewer, okay? You're a fair water boy like me, and we grew up with many, many people, many different kinds of people in and out of prison, you know the score, and far more decent people, far better people than those specimens, let's say, that you meet in the Welsh Parliament. And I don't think those people should be elected. So look into the future. I want Propel to go forward. I want Propel people to get elected. I want working class people to be represented.
Salt of the earth.
Salt of the earth people. Like, like people's grandmothers and grandfathers, your mum and dad, all that kind of stuff, and just people who don't think too much of themselves, people who care about others, but people who've got a really big radar for what's right and wrong. We can all make mistakes. And I mean, to go back to your guests, I watched your podcast. I found it really interesting. And I mean, if you're not prepared to listen to somebody, then you're the bigot. Don't call somebody a bigot and say they must be cancelled. Listen to what they've got to say and disagree with them. And if you've got a better argument, you're going to convince people not to agree with them. But nowadays it's all about cancellation, and it's very well organised, very, very well organised. And we're dealing with a creeping fascism, particularly in Wales. I'll give you an example. In the Welsh election, I wanted to go out and knock on as many doors as possible to try and convince people to vote for me. It was against the law in 2021 in Wales until April the 11th. That was purely political, had nothing to do with health. But Mark Drakeford felt threatened, and they thought there was a small possibility that I may win. Okay, and not just me, but other people as well, fighting the Labour Party. At the same time, when it was illegal to knock door to door for politics, it was totally legal to go and knock the doors to sell double glazing. So why was that? You look at the police state that we live in now. I spoke at a rally. When was it? I think it was last year. And I had a police officer actually come up to me and tell me to be careful about what I said. I couldn't believe it. He had a rainbow thing on his collar there. And bear in mind, and your dad will know this, you're speaking to somebody who was very vocal about equality and gay,
my father
and gay rights.
This,
yeah, when it was very unpopular. And I remember we're sat in the fair at a pub now, and I had a couple of hairy experiences downstairs because I wouldn't stand for homophobic language. And I would tell people, and they wouldn't appreciate it, and they could then call me gay, and it would escalate. But I've made a quip there about the rainbow flag because I think it's just been completely hijacked. And there's this huge intolerance now. And I grew up with lots of abuse, as we discussed briefly. I embrace tolerance, and I want to listen to people. And there's a whole culture out there now which just wants to batter you, wants to just hammer you down. And if you put your head above the parapet, you get it chopped off. And you know what I mean? But I think I'm a bit like a liver me. You just grow back, you know, when you get cut off. And just don't give up, keep fighting, and just when you know you're right, and that's it.
Yeah, that's one thing I'd say about you, Neil. You do find a way to bounce back.
But the key point is, though, with Propel now, we've got a whole body, a whole army of like-minded people. And the job to go forward is to build that army. Give you another example. We've got a meeting on the 1st of March. 10 o'clock is going to be in the City Arms upstairs, and it's called Fight Back. And it's particularly aimed at parents who have suffered with children's services. And what we want is, I did a workshop for parents a few weeks ago, went very well. I didn't know whether it would or not because I wasn't sure whether it would be helpful, but people did say it was helpful. And there are lots of groups where parents and families emotionally support each other, which is really necessary and good, but there's no group out there which is fighting politically. Propel's policies on children's services are very, very straightforward. We don't want to see families broken up. We want to see families kept together and put back together and supported. So instead of having adoption agencies in Wales, every child who gets adopted, the agency gets £35,000. Okay? And RCT were advertising not so long ago for a member of staff to develop the placement market. Now, they use the term market. I mean, what happens in a market? Yeah, I'm not even going to comment on that. It's obvious. But when there's so much money at stake, then you really have to question what's going on. So, I mean, professionally, I'm dealing with that with M&B. We 100% do our best for families. But politically, through Propel, we want to build an army of families that want to change the law. And we're going to run a project called Voices of Wales, and we want families to come forward and tell their stories, say what's happened to them in courts, which is secret right now. Although there is a pilot in Cardiff which is being run and that they are being opened up. But what I intend to do is, instead of putting individual people out there, we get actors, actresses in pro bono. They'd have to do it for free, and we tell people stories and maybe mix the stories up. So there's no question of contempt of court.
That's them, yeah.
There's no question of any identity. And the other thing as well is I will be running for the Senedd again in 2026. And what I want to do is guarantee that we will have a people's inquiry into children's services in Wales. As a member of the Senedd, I would have that ability. We're never going to have a governmental inquiry until Propel runs a government in the future. At the moment, what I could do as a member is run a people's inquiry. So we'd have a room in the Senedd every week, or however long it would be. We'd have a committee of people that we could have appointed, maybe ex-lawyers, possibly ex-judges. We'll see who would be interested, and then allow people just to come in and tell their stories, say how the children were adopted, tell people how they fought, say what their problems were, say how they felt they were lied about. If they say that the truth wasn't told about them, give the committee the evidence. And then what we can do then is put a body of work together, and then I could run that. I could run with that as a politician in the Welsh Parliament, putting it together as a report. And I think, knowing what I know, I believe in the future we're going to see documentary after documentary about families being broken up unfairly. And until you know until you see it, you wouldn't believe it.
Well, people don't know
believe it.
People don't know what they're looking for, and the classic case of adoption is reckless family. They go into a better family. You hear some of these. When I done Lawrence Fox the other day, and I've done other guests who have said that they're looking to break the family nucleus down. This is what governments are doing now. And then when you talk about the money side of it as well, it makes sense.
I see the financial incentive. In Wales, the Labour Party, it is the Labour Party in Wales. They've set up adoption agencies. So what we're going to do now, we're going to set up that group. Don't know what it's going to be called, but it's going to be set up on the 1st of March, St. David's Day. Then hopefully we'll all march together on the St. David's Day march at midday from City Hall. And then those chief executives of those agencies will find out who they are, find out what companies they've got shares in, find out what their salary is. Yeah, will enable parents to do subject access requests, to get the information they're entitled to, but they're not being given right now. And what we'll have is an organisation, a fighting organisation, a volunteer organisation through Propel, because we're the only political party fighting on this agenda.
I've done a group with my work with VAC, Voices Action Change, which is based around substance services. Yeah. But some of the members, some of the reps here have had their kids taken off them. Right. And they're in other groups. Yeah. Actually, a group that you might know of, and they held a meeting or a get together in St. John's, where the church is based in Cardiff, and just sitting there listening.
Yeah.
Some of the stories I heard, they do seem fishy. They don't seem.
That's what I did my workshop, actually. But what I would say is, though, that, and some people may not like this either, so we're back to the truth element. Some parents do have to understand that they've misbehaved.
Yes, yeah.
They have let the children down. They have harmed their children. But then, are we saying that nobody can ever be? Do we say that redemption doesn't exist? Do we say that people can't change? Do we say that people can't put their lives back together? But there's a hugely judgmental culture in Wales where you deal with cases and things are being held against people that happened 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, and there's also a lack of regulation. I mean, one of the first cases I dealt with when I started doing this back in 2021, and I mean, I read the reports and I'm thinking, well, why is this kid being adopted? I mean, and when I spoke to the mother, she had been sexually harassed by the male social worker, and she was too frightened to complain. And the only person, in her words, I'll give her a voice now, she will be watching this. She said that the male social worker expected a sexual performance from her, which she wouldn't give. And the health visitor thought she was a great mother. The nursery thought she was a great mother. No issue with health, no issue with education. Child was well turned out. Child loved his mother. Mother loved child. And she had a stinking report of a social worker, or social workers, plural. And when I started looking into the case in more detail, I wasn't in the Welsh Parliament then, lucky for them. The girl told me, I say girl because she was young, told me the same story every single time. Her story didn't differ once. That was interesting. And then I started reading reports. I started reading about the concerns raised about the social worker by a fellow professional. Okay? So it's not just, then I'm thinking, well, it's not just her. You've got this professional said this. And it was flagged. Okay? And the Vale of Glamorgan Council, I'll call them out, the Vale of Glamorgan Council still sent that male social worker alone to see that poor girl. Now, I'm being prejudiced there by saying, poor girl. Maybe she wasn't telling the truth. Maybe the man was innocent. But as soon as concerns were raised by a professional about that man, you shouldn't have had the girl being told she needs a sense of humour. Okay?
No, they got to go by the professional at that point, surely.
No, she was told she should have had a sense of humour, the girl. Because when he told her to go up to the bedroom because she knew the drill, for example, go up to the bedroom. You know the drill. And as soon as she said that to me, I'm thinking, you got a man going into your house making comments about your boyfriend, that he's not that good looking and she should be with somebody better. And then upstairs bedroom, I got to see it. That's where the little one is. You know the drill, bedroom. And she felt very intimidated, frightened. Does she go up to the bedroom or not? If she doesn't comply, well, what kind of report is she going to get? And the thing is, Cullen, the girl put a complaint in. I helped her. It went to the Vale of Glamorgan. It was never investigated. Okay?
Should have been investigated.
It's a case I'd like to go back to. But with work, with studying, earning a living, the politics is part-time now, yeah? Propel is a volunteer organisation right now. We need new members to help us get on our feet more so we can employ people to be more effective. I went to Jane Hutt's office, the great feminist. She's made a whole career of being a feminist. Can I ask you a question in the interview? Do you think Jane Hutt's office helped her in any way, really? So yes or no?
I'm gathering.
I'm compromising you there. It's not fair of me. They didn't help.
No.
I'm sort of being rhetorical. I'm just
throwing it out there.
I can imagine. Out of frustration, really, because you've got a minister. She's set up a charity. Got a really great lifestyle from being a feminist, and you've got a single mother. Okay, being preyed upon, in my opinion, by what I've read, and the other professional flagging something untoward, and she didn't make sure that girl got justice. The child's been adopted now. I get a message occasionally off the person, and I'd love it to turn up to the workshop. And because I want people that have been through the system, that have been damaged, been treated unfairly. Propel wants to educate you, those people, enable them, make them activists, and fight back. That's why the meeting is called Fight Back. Instead of going down a very destructive route, as is natural, when really bad things happen to you, what Propel wants people to do is take stock, look at who did what, look who's to blame, and to fight back. Yeah, in a positive way.
I'm assuming this isn't pitchforking. So let's just take down social service. You are looking into each case and taking it.
What it is I don't know. For me, I'm big on innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, okay? Me too.
Absolutely. It's a fundamental right which has been eroded. So, for example, the social worker may not have done what she said. Okay, maybe the other professional had no need to flag what she flagged. Maybe the man is totally innocent. Remove him from the situation. He should not have been going to that property. If everything else if there's nothing to see anywhere else, there's something to see there, because the Vale of Glamorgan failed that social worker and they failed that girl as well. Basic process, but there's no accountability. And where I'm coming from, and this is what gets me in trouble, I want accountability. I want those people responsible. And you've got to go right up the tree. Right up the tree. If I'm honest with you look at all these senior directors, I'd sack most of them if it was up to me. I really would. I step back there because I'm being judgmental. I think many people should have to reapply for their jobs. But we're talking people earning £150,000 a year, £200,000 a year. The Welsh Parliament has created a whole new elite through the Labour Party, and they do really, really well. And you look at people at the tough end of things, being taken advantage of, being abused, not being listened to. Gwent, I'll do a shout out here. Gwent Police. Gwent Police. dealing with a case where, I am allowed to say this because the parents have consented, a child alleged abuse, sexual abuse, on 2 occasions. It was reported on 2 occasions. The abuse was said to have taken place in school, okay? In the school, the CCTV happened to be turned off on those occasions. Maybe it's coincidence. The Gwent police haven't even spoken to the child. They've not spoken to the person who reported it. They've not spoken to them. I mean, this is 2024. Rochdale, all those scandals. And this has been going on now for a good number of weeks. So I'm going to go back to the family and tell them that I've mentioned it on air today. When this goes out, they'll be delighted, because maybe the Gwent police will just do their jobs. I mean, why is that so difficult? Which leads me on to the lack of, sort of a monologue almost, sorry, but we've got police commissioner elections coming up. I'll be honest with you, I don't think Propel are going to stand, because the reason being is a huge democratic deficit. When you stand for Westminster...
Alan Michael, he's Labour.
Yeah, he's standing down. He'll be replaced by
Who's the girl? Is a woman stepping in, isn't there?
I've got no idea. I don't see any difference between any of them. They're all the same. The Senedd parties, all the parties in the Welsh Parliament, Lib Dems, Plaid Cymru, Labour, Conservative, it's a cartel, okay? You see them behind the scenes, drinking together, eating together, friends together. It's a club. It's a club I was given a ticket to, and I just threw the ticket away. Wasn't interested. And I mean, what we're about is change. And with the police election, though, there is no... You get a mail shot for Westminster, you get a mail shot for the Welsh Parliament elections, so you can put your point of view across. The police commissioner elections, in case anybody too radical gets elected, there's no mail shot. So for me to mail shot Cardiff West, to send a letter to everybody, you're talking 60 grand. So you multiply that across the South Wales region, it's a huge amount of money. So only wealthy parties can really fight those elections properly. We can't fight it properly, so I don't think we'll fight it at all.
How long is Labour being in control of Wales? I know you say they're a cartel and they're all the same. How long has Labour...
roughly in local government, 100 years.
It's never changed?
The Welsh Parliament since 1997...
It's been Labour.
You had a Blair government.
Of course.
Then you had 99 Welsh
Roger
Parliament.
Morgan.
So what they do is they control how to spend... This is where it gets interesting. They control how to spend the 20 billion every year. And you see now the cycling charity, Sustrans, who the minister... Lee Waters, the Labour minister, used to be employed by Sustrans. The Labour leader of Cardiff Council used to be employed by Sustrans. Another Labour councillor, I forget his name, some non-entity in Canton, he's employed by Sustrans. And they've just got £3 million off. They've had £3 million off the Welsh government.
So, they're paying themselves.
It's just, it's a merry-go-round.
That's funny, isn't it?
It's a merry-go-round that we want to break. Yeah.
But if it wasn't for people like yourselves and people who don't really, people who know politics... I wouldn't know that.
Most people,
a lot of people wouldn't know that.
Most people are disengaged, and the blessing now is new media like yourselves and BBC. Waste of time. I don't even call them journalists. I mean, some of the things that went on in the Welsh Parliament, which I can't talk about now. It might be in the book. I got some good lawyers to look at it. I mean, they should have been headline news. And if I behaved like that.
Well,
I would have been, but I hadn't done anything. I mean, I was just...
What was you headline news for again? Just for the people who don't know.
Oh, God, it depends which time, really.
You was bullying was one of them, yeah?
Yeah, there was a poor woman got evicted and the family was thrown out and the council lied to court. Come back to me on that one. Okay. I was in court with the woman. They lied. Unbelievable. Well, it was to me at the time. So I came out and I just said, well, God, we're going to have to restructure this council. We can't allow this to happen. And because I used the word restructure, they said, he's threatened us. Certain people said, he just threatened people that they would lose their jobs if they ran the council. That's bullying. So I was then found guilty of being a bully a month before the council elections in 2017. The incident took place in 2015. And they waited right the way round to... a month before the election in 2017, when I got thrown out for a month. The second one, this is even worse, was a child was alleging abuse in care. Okay? And the parents were beside themselves. Parents who really loved their children. Okay? And the children were in care. I mean, you could say they shouldn't have been, but I won't go too much into that case. The fact is, child was in care. Parents were trying to keep an eye on the child. Child is making allegations of abuse. And
was making allegations?
Had made. And
making them up, or
well,
no?
he'd had to go to hospital.
Okay.
So there was some substance then. And I phoned the care home and I just wanted to know if the boy was okay. And things escalated then. And I attended a meeting with the father and he recorded what was going on his phone. And I was then accused of shouting at them, being aggressive, the usual kind of tropes. If you've got a dark face, brown eyes, you're automatically aggressive, you're automatically a bully. These woke warriors, the most racist people I've ever encountered. So, of course, it's very easy to stereotype me. I speak in formal situations as I'm speaking now. I'm a pretty well, Cardiff accent, pretty well spoken, educated. I'm assertive, I'm confident, I'm not aggressive. And I was said to be aggressive. To go back to the care home, I made the mistake of not recording the conversation. Error, schoolboy error. And the person who the child said abused it, very few people know this, because the BBC wouldn't run it, Wales Online wouldn't run it, but the person who the child said abused it was the person who started the complaint about me. So potential abuser, innocent before proven guilty, alleged abuser, off the hook. McEvoy, on the hook. Child, they don't give a shit about him. Okay? Reality. The police then admit 2 years later, because I didn't give up, they admitted they didn't investigate properly. So go into a care home, having a chat with a worker, blah, 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 cup of tea, and then shooting off. That's not investigating. But then 2 years later, there was nothing to see anyway. I was hammered in the press, hammered by the BBC, everyone. And I was thrown off the council for 4 months. And it's fascistic. I was elected. And this is quite funny in a sense. One of the people who investigated me was somebody who lost their job on Cardiff Council when I was deputy leader, because I was behind the restructuring, getting rid of people on lots of money at the top. Generally, I was responsible for getting rid of most of the salaries over £100,000. That was in 2010. So one of these well-paid officers, I felt he had an interest, and I thought that should have been declared. But because it happened more than 3 years before the investigation, apparently there was no interest for him to declare. So it was okay for him to find me guilty. And I went to a panel, thrown out for 4 months. What about the kid? I said a few things on Facebook, took a chance, named the care home at the time and the company. And another lad got in touch who told me he'd been abused by the same man. Okay? We went to I got in touch with the police. I cut a long story short. Somebody got to the boy. He was 18, just left care. Somebody got to him before the police could take a statement.
Changed it.
He wouldn't complain then. And, I mean, what are we talking? What are we talking about here? Yeah? And, I mean, a member of staff blew the whistle to me, informally. And this is the same care home, by the way, same company. But they were too frightened to speak out. And they couldn't go on the record.
Is this a problem with is it a problem with recruiting then? Is it like a problem with how they're vetting their staff as well? Or is it that solely? Or are we talking about there's different levels to this?
I think many reasons. I mean, lack of pay, companies trying to make a big profit, so they pay staff less. Some sadists in the system who like abusing children in different ways. Those that do speak out, whistleblowing, getting battered. I mean, having their lives ruined. Because I suppose I'm a whistleblower, really. So I was in the Senate, I was blowing the whistle on lots of things. My last contribution was, do you know the cladding scandal? The fake fire safety certificates?
So after Grenfell, was it?
Yeah, I blew the whistle on that. That was me. And that was the last open contribution I was allowed to make in the Senedd. Because they knew I had more things to say. But in the Senedd, my speech was protected. And I was stopped from having I had to win the ballots.
So you blew that scandal up,
Yeah. And then LBC in London, unbelievable. I gave the journalist the story, said, look, I've done this, blah, blah, blah. They badged it as their own story. I'm not kidding. I think it was Sadiq Khan congratulated the journalist. But if you look at the timeline, look at the dates, I blew the whistle in the Welsh Parliament. But because it's Wales, nobody really cares.
No, yeah, you're
so
right.
So the London people thought, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I think she was working on the story anyway, but I did it and gave her a load of stuff, and it was their story apparently. But it was me. But the interesting thing is that was the last whistle I was allowed to blow in the Senedd, because after that point I was only allowed to make a contribution if I won the ballot, and they couldn't stop that. The presiding officer would not choose me. Didn't choose me.
There's a famous video, if anyone wants to go and watch it, where there's a time where you're standing in the Senedd and you're talking about an issue, and all of them are just laughing at you like you are an idiot, like you are not part of this club. Fuck off.
Totally. I mean, I used to go home to my wife, after plenary generally. Just go for a pint sometimes, but so I didn't really fit in there. I don't do drugs, okay? So I didn't really fit in there with the cocaine crowd. I'm allowed to say that? Is that controversial?
Yeah, of course you can. It's embedded in society. Everyone's flat out.
Well, I tried. Do you know what I would love? Because a lot of
was there any of that within the part with Senedd members as well?
Of course,
on the drugs.
Of course,
coke.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I like a pint. I like a single malt whiskey. I like a red wine. Okay, that's me. But I could name them now. I won't, of course. But I mean, what I will say is ITV did an expo.
It wasn't Mark Drakeford by any chance, was it?
No names on this one. Wait for the book. The ITV did an expose, and they'd found traces of cocaine in one of the toilets used by the Senedd members, right? And so that nobody was really hush-hush, okay? And off the record, I remember saying, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I said to one of the journalists, and they were really tight-lipped, which is really unusual, but they'd been, I think, battered by the Senedd over it, and they'd be denied access if they went ahead with it. And I named the toilet where he was, okay? And he's like rabbit in headlights. He didn't want to confirm anything. And to be fair, in the end, the individual said, it was those toilets.
Oh my gosh.
And I know who uses those toilets. And I mean, just things behind the scenes, though. I mean, it's just, it make your toes curl.
These people are running our country.
No, the thing is, you get they're the same judgmental people who tell, single mam in Ely, she's got to have a haircut, hair pulled out, drug tested. If it's positive, she's losing her kids. Yeah, I would love for politicians to be hair tested, please. I'd love it. Yeah, social workers as well. Let's just be honest about where we are.
Let's have an honest conversation.
Yeah? And the amount of I remember I spoke.
Yeah, it riles me. Working in services, these people who will kick people off methadone scripts in their treatments, but on the weekend they are flat out on the bag.
There's a minimum alcohol price in Wales. So it's more expensive to buy booze here, thanks to Labour and Plaid Cymru and the Lib Dems, than in England. And I'm looking at these people around the Senedd who I've seen just like legless, passed out, some of them. I mean, back in the day, I wish I had a camera phone, But, oh my God, some horrible images come flashing. Honestly, oh my God, like dresses of heads and
so you have
Plaid Cymru conference.
Well, really?
Oh yeah, that was like one of the most pious, sort of never do anything wrong members you can think of. But leave that where it is. But the point is, I remember standing up and saying, "Oh look, let's be honest. How much everyone was talking about the evils of alcohol. I'm big on education. It's better not to drink too much. Okay, I don't encourage anyone to drink too much. But who are we to judge people? And who are those people who get rat-assed at conferences, okay, on drugs, lecturing us how to live? It's the same as the Senedd members who, the kids have been criminals, okay, convicted, prison and so on. That's unlucky, because I think, we all try our best with our children, and you can't judge anyone. So we never know how it's going to work out. And yet those very same people are telling us how to bring our kids up. Well, they've not been too successful, in some instances. I'm not criticising him for that.
Are you talking about Mark's son?
No, or whoever it is. There's more. Yeah, I mean,
There's others, yeah.
I mean, just life is life. So I'm not criticising parents here.
Yeah.
But what I am criticising is the absolute hypocrisy and the snide haughtiness, the snobbery of those people, thinking they have the right to preach to people about how they've got to live their lives. I tell you what, do one, please. You know. Can I tell you the other one? I'll shut up then. The controversy. It was Mick Anthony. Mick Anthony. Most people probably don't know who he is. So he's been elected since, I think, 1999.
Antoniou.
Mick Anthony, yeah. He's a senior Labour politician. And he's a Senate member for Pontypridd. Anyway, he'd insulted me in the chamber. Okay, and it could be heard. It was on the recording. And I thought, well, I really didn't appreciate that. So I went through formal channels. Okay. The presiding officer, so the sort of chair or the speaker, didn't hear it. So she couldn't do anything. But it was on the recording. So all she had to do was listen to the recording. And what should have happened, convention is he should have been made to apologise or withdraw the comments. None of that happened. Because it was me, he could say what he wanted. And this is where Welsh democracy falls down, because some people are more equal than others, which is a very Labour, Plaid Cymru, Lib Dem trait. I mean, and the Conservatives just go along with it. So did the Brexit Party as well in the Senedd. And Reform are no different. Honest to God, they're not. And so I thought, well, I've tried official channels and a bit of a fair water boy, really, I suppose, you know. Although I learned the lesson. And I saw him in the corridor. I thought, well, I really didn't appreciate that. I said, you know, I'll tell you what, Mick. And he said, don't speak to me. And I was like, what? I said, don't speak to me. I said, who are you? Who are you? So if I'm honest with you, Cullen, he sort of got me there because I lost my temper. Yeah, and I just said to him, mate, I said, you're a red Tory. I said, you're spineless. And that's all I said. But I did say it sort of aggressively, if you like. And so that was it, you know. I was told I had to apologise. And I'm thinking, well, hang about. He's insulted me. I've just told in the chamber in front of everyone.
When was you told to apologise?
After the following day.
So that wasn't recorded?
No. It was just,
so there's no evidence of that happening, but you have to apologise.
But I was honest enough to say it happened. And I was honest enough to say, yeah, do you know what? I was a bit aggressive. And yeah, I did lose my temper. Yeah. Because I did. It was interesting because I think looking back on it now, being a little bit older, losing my temper was a weakness. Because growing up where we grew up, you were trained to fight, if you like. So if somebody did something to you, you respond. And it was weak not to respond in those days. But in the formal situation that I was in the Parliament...
You'd petty to his hands.
It was very weak of me. Yeah. It was weak of me to lose my temper. Yeah. And I see that now. So it wouldn't happen again. And, you know, more up there. But what happened was then, I mean, I wouldn't apologise. You know, do me a favour. And then all these allegations were concocted, just made up. I chased him down the corridor. Right? I'd stopped him getting into the chamber to vote. I put my head near his face to like headbutt him. And one member of staff said they were so traumatised they couldn't sleep. Right? Members of the public, I don't know how they saw it, but they saw it apparently. And 6 people said they saw me behave like a thug. Oh, terrible thug. You're like... I'm not being funny. He's like about 6'1". I'm 5'6", right? Yeah. So a bit feisty, but you know, I'm also getting on in years, so I wouldn't do that. You know, I wouldn't become involved in an altercation like that. And it was made up, right? So I'm thinking, all I've got to do is get the CCTV. Simple. And they said to me, "You can't have the CCTV." And I said, "Well, no. The law is this." So sort of legal even then, but just didn't have the training. I said, the law is this, you have to give it to me. So they gave me the footage. And it's on my Twitter somewhere and Facebook. And I mean, anyone is just welcome to watch it because I didn't do anything. I mean, I'm stupid and polite enough to I actually held the door open for the man, right? And I had files in one arm, so I couldn't actually, I had my files. And I did say a few words to him going into the chamber, but they lied, right? Now, let me put it this way, for the benefit of libel law. They either lied or they were all mistaken with their recollection, because memory's not perfect. I mean, you can think things have happened, and they haven't. I mean, Christ, I was in a casino once and thought I won, and I hadn't at all. But I talked about off camera. It was very late at night.
Yeah.
Well, early hours of the morning, years ago. But
I understand.
Right?
I understand.
And the point is, when we got to the committee, and I'm sitting pretty. I was aggressive. Stupidly admitted how I was really, and then isn't it sad to say stupidly? Yeah, just to tell the truth. I went to the committee expecting them to look at the video and say, well, they've all lied or they're all mistaken, and they refused to view the footage. Yeah, they refused to review the footage, and they said, well, Neil, we've got 6 witnesses. I said, yeah, but none of us. They're all wrong. None of them's telling the truth. Watch the video and you'll see it's prima facie evidence. And they refused. They voted not to view the video. Interesting who? Plaid Cymru, Labour, Brexit Party, Conservatives. This is what I mean by the cartel. It was more important for them to give... What was I by that point? A pain in the arse, really? Blowing a whistle? But it was more important for them to swat this sort of wasp or...
Pain in the ass, yeah.
Swat me down than actually ruin almost reputationally a very senior Labour figure.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you look at the video, if you look at his account, when he stood up in the Senate, he was almost crying, saying how frightened he was. And he had to be accompanied by people to walk around the Senate because he was frightened of me. I'm like, oh my God, it's just I'd be too embarrassed. Even if that was the case for me at some point, whenever, I'd be too embarrassed to say it in public. Do you know what I mean? But, I mean, it was just unbelievable. And I got banned. I was out for 3 weeks. Front page news, BBC headlines, thug, bully. There's this little publication called Nation.Cymru. And I thought I was going to get some sort of justice from them. I sent them the video and said, look, and they didn't want to know. But then they're funded by the Welsh Government, you see. And therein lies the rub. Because the Welsh Government, the Labour Party, effectively gives a lot of money to Wales Online. It's a conveyor belt for BBC journalists who want to have a political career, mainly Plaid ones, to be honest, but they're part of the same cartel. So the truth goes out the window. And it was all about doing a job on me before I stood for election against Drakeford. A fair play to them. They did a good job on me, let's be honest.
Before we just jump in on, onto other things, why... You've gone down a route now that is there's no going back from it, is it? The way you talk on Labour, Plaid, Conservatives, these are bodies of government that have been here since the start, you could say. Yeah. So what do you have to do now to, make a difference? How can you?
Well, making a difference already. I mean, a couple of things. Very recent, actually. Make a difference. I took a phone call off. It was a Facebook message off somebody in a lot of distress. The problem is my time is limited now. It's difficult.
What I'm trying to say is it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, no, but
to go against a machine like this.
Of course, yeah. I mean, people get told off for speaking to me. People get told off for commenting on my social media by senior. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable how bad it is. But Facebook, young girl Facebooked me. She was being evicted unfairly. I thought that's quite serious. Young family. I looked into it, and she had a case. I'm thinking, well, this ain't right. But she didn't contact me until after the first. I better be careful because I won't go into all of it. I'll stop there because this is under.
The thing is,
let me tell you, Colin, she wasn't evicted. Okay, the eviction was stopped. It'd been through court once, but it was stopped because of my intervention. So that's solely down to my intervention, my knowledge of law, and just actually fighting a bit. I'm asking, I said, well, who's going to take ownership of this? I won't go into all of it because there's a police investigation out for perjury.
Yeah, I understand.
The information which was given to the court by the council. But that's one sort of mini victory. I mean, in my professional life, we're getting really good results in terms of keeping families together, stopping adoptions, And we're making a difference. In terms of Propel,
Yeah.
we're at the start of a long journey. What I'm doing as leader of Propel is trying to promote people, train them, give them confidence. So maybe in the not too distant future, you got somebody else sat here from Propel or on some other media outlet.
Yeah.
And we're taking them on. I mean, we're taking them on. And we're not like them. And the reason most people say politicians are all the same. Well, our actions have proved that we're not.
You're not the same.
Because for me, it would have been easy to shut up, ignore the wrongdoing, get re-elected, have a nice, easy life every month, yeah? Money coming in. I chose not to do that. I chose to get expelled. I chose to lose the election, really, because, I mean, with a new brand, it's almost impossible at the very start to win. And then May 2021, no one in the public sector was going to employ me because the Labour Party, implied to an extent, dominate the public sector so much. I mean, so most jobs I couldn't apply for. So I set up my own business. And in law, it's gone really well. And I'm really glad to be in the private sector with M&B, which is a fighting firm. And the client comes first. We don't do any work. In terms of local authorities, we do no work for local authorities. We fight for our clients.
You say Propel, you're taking on people.
Yeah.
Can you give me, like, I don't know, say 4 like standpoints or 4 bullet points of what you stand for? What is Propel?
Propel is a sovereignist party. Sovereignist, what we mean is people having control over their own lives. So everyone should have the opportunity to own a home because you've got a solid base then. And that's just one thing. We believe in community sovereignty. So those of us that live in our communities should have a say on what happens in the community. So, for example, when Wineground Road, up the road, being really local here, the recycling centre closed, 100% voted in a referendum to keep it open. And we were not listened to. So with a situation like that, if you had a community referendum, which they abolished after that, by the way, Labour plied Lib Dems again, the cartel, if people voted locally to keep something open like that, then it would stay open. That's the community sovereignty. And the third plank of our policy, it's a journey, individuals controlling their own lives, sovereignty, communities controlling what happens in the local environment, sovereignty again. We believe in sovereignty for Wales. We should be able to stand on our own 2 feet. We should be a wealthy country. But I put a caveat on all of this. If you said to me, could Wales be sovereign and run its own affairs tomorrow, with that shower of whatever it is down Cardiff Bay, I'd say absolutely not. Before we do this, before we become a sovereign nation, we've got to go through a journey of change. And we've got to root out the corruption. I don't call it, the title of my book will be called Corruption Bay, not Cardiff Bay, it's Corruption Bay. And maybe there's a couple of you guys out there, you may want to be worried about a few things coming out, believe me, if I get the legal okay, all right?
Okay, well, I do want to talk about just a brief evaluation, let's say, of Mark Drakeford. He's coming to the end of his run of Wales.
Yeah.
I seen one article call him a Welsh Titan. Would you agree with that, Welsh Titan?
What newspaper was that?
Did you see it yourself? I think he might. I think it was like a British. I think it was like an English one, not rather than a Welsh one.
Was Daily Mirror? Was it?
Might have been Daily Mirror.
Yeah,
Daily Mail.
They're funded by the Labour. So they fund the Labour Party as a Labour paper. I think. No, I saw sort of a repost of it without the last 2 letters, which I thought was sort of more accurate.
Welsh.
I didn't say that. But no. To be fair, let's have a think of his record. Think of someone who's done positive. They weren't very good at casework. They're probably still not, because my office was down the road from his. We used to pick up lots of cases that they didn't really deal with very well. I think he did well on NHS. I'd say not the NHS, my God, take that back. The one point where I think he's done okay, something to remember him by, is the donation, organ donation. I think that was him. Other than that, I can't think of a single positive thing.
What was his? What maybe would you say is his biggest mistake? His biggest.
Jesus, God. So I mean, getting elected. but that wasn't his mistake. That was everyone out here's mistake. And the key point. This is where Propeller's coming from. More than 50% of the people out there don't vote in Welsh elections. So listen, guys, it's your fault. Okay, so take a look at politics. Have a look at Propel and start voting. Get involved in politics. I mean, most people don't vote.
Well, it affects our day-to-day lives, don't it?
I mean, everything comes down to politics. I mean, you know, the closure of the youth centre is politics. Closure of the recycling tip is politics. No bloody buses up the road now. That's politics. It comes down to budgets.
Politics, mate, yeah.
It comes down to budgets, and they've made so many mistakes. But I think the biggest mistake he's made is not rooting out the corruption in Welsh public life. But then there are too many people in Labour who benefit from that. I mean...
does he benefit from that?
The whole of the Labour establishment does, because we're not just talking about brown envelopes. There are people who are given jobs in certain things. People are appointed to this, appointed to that. I mean, have influence on certain things. There are varying types of corruption. And Wales, it's a one-party sub-state, really.
Yeah.
You know? Which is really problematic, excuse me.
So that's what if you could describe Mark Drakeford in one word as a politician?
Ineffective. Well, in a sense, he's effective because he got elected. But I don't know, one word. You put me on the spot there now. Drab, useless, overrated. Certainly didn't live in his shed. That was just more PR bullshit from the Welsh media, because he was living in the everyone
summer
knew,
house.
It's a house. Everyone knows that. But then this is what I mean about the corruption, because that's a form of corruption where the media have built up this image, and very sort of Stalin-esque in a sense, where Uncle Joe Stalin, a bit of political history, was seen as being a really kindly uncle, and it turns out he's one of the biggest mass murderers in history. I'm not comparing Drakeford in that sense, but what I'm saying is the false narrative of the media to promote somebody, to give them a certain image out there. That's what is Stalin-esque about it.
What about his personal? Did you?
I don't really know him. I mean, again, this is what I find interesting, and I'd say a lack of professionalism. When you get in the Senedd, I mean, I remember like Nathan Gill. He was the leader of UKIP. Okay, I mean, we couldn't have been further apart politically. You know, I mean, I'm out there, he's out there, didn't agree on anything, hardly. Well, I'm not sure. I think the only thing we could probably agree with is that we agree. Well, truth differs from, you know, it's my truth, it's his truth. Although sometimes facts are facts.
You know, facts.
So
free speech, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we agreed on shared parenting. And when I was with Plaid Cymru, none of them, like in the chamber, none of them used to speak to me hardly. I mean, it was really weird. I'm a sociable guy, always had friends with the football, one of the boys. But in the Senedd, I was the weirdo. I said I didn't fit in, and they didn't speak to me at all. And outside of the chamber, the Labour lot were really, I mean, I've been shouted at in the face, yeah, screamed at, and pointed at. People walking out of lifts if I went in. People shutting doors on me. I mean, just people very, very unpleasant. So when people treat you like that, you don't really get to know them. Drakeford didn't treat me like that, but I just didn't know the man. But when I sat next to Nathan Gill, because I was sort of cast, no consultation. I moved to the other side of the chamber, which suited me really. He spoke to me in one afternoon in a sit-in in the Senedd more than the whole of the Plaid Cymru lot had done in the previous 18 months.
Wow.
Honestly. I mean, I used to go in, how are you? Yeah, okay. How's your mum? Okay. But yeah, okay, Neil. And I was done then for like 5 hours. It was really odd. I remember going into the members' lounge, and I wasn't implied then. I'd left. It was my choice to leave that party in the end, because I I was expelled. I was supposed to be getting back in, bit of a kerfuffle. And I knew I was being stitched again. But Simon Thomas, the paedophile Plaid Cymru member of the Welsh Parliament, convicted, admitted, dreadful stuff. He didn't go to jail.
What did he do? Physically or
He was,
websites?
Creating child pornography of the worst grade, yeah, and downloading, all that kind of stuff. So I would, if you want me to be blunt about him, I was saying as far back as 2016 that he shouldn't have been going to schools, okay? And I was absolutely cast out for saying that because he was one of the superstars. But the man was a weirdo. And I could see that. And I said so.
You could see that.
Absolutely. I mean, the guy was a weirdo. And I could see it. I'd seen him around the bay in the pubs and just like slithering around. I thought, wow, that's interesting. Don't like that. And when he was convicted, he didn't go to jail. And I said he should have gone to jail, right? And listen, if anyone out there is thinking of voting Plaid Cymru, just consider this, right? Because what happened was, because I tweeted he should have gone to jail, they put me on a disciplinary, and the allegation was that I brought Plaid Cymru into disrepute by saying a stinking, dirty paedophile should have gone to jail. So I'm the bad guy for saying that. He was never expelled.
He stayed part of him, did he?
He resigned. They allowed him to resign. They expelled me. But
ridiculous.
Plaid Cymru allowed a paedophile to resign.
Yeah, it's backwards.
Yeah.
It is backwards.
Just what can you say? You know, I mean,
20 mile per hour.
Jesus Christ, ridiculous. Outside schools, okay, I've campaigned for it myself. Okay, I agree with that. But I mean, for those of you watching unfamiliar with Cardiff, Western Avenue, 4 lanes. It's an A road, 20 miles an hour. You're driving, you've got to go 30, 4 lanes. Then you've got to go 20. Then you think you can go 30. It's a joke. It's cost tens of millions of pounds. Right? When I was in hospital over Christmas, the New Year actually it was, wasn't it? New Year's Eve. I was in Ysbyty Gwynedd. I was in North Wales with the family, and I was told to go there immediately. So I did, and whatever. And I've got an image in my mind of a very elderly man, and he wasn't alone. We were sort of connected personally, chit-chat. It was an image of an elderly man on a trolley in a corridor, very uncomfortable, denied his dignity, right? And you have these absolute clowns, and I'm being polite there, these idiotic Labour politicians spending tens of millions of pounds on 20 miles an hour everywhere, which is not needed. I mean, outside of school, yeah, of course, and do some speed education, because of course you shouldn't be hammering down side streets, but ideally, local streets here where kids play, 20 miles an hour, ideally, yeah? But the main arteries, 20 miles an hour, it's an absolute joke.
And I think now, if they withdrew from it now, again, it's like, well, we've spent all this money.
But they do it all the time. I mean, if you look at, and again, the media don't really talk about this, the traditional, I call them the establishment media, because they're there to support the establishment. I remember when I was blowing the whistle on the child abuse, as I saw it, the alleged child abuse, and I tried to get a BBC journalist to...
Well, all these things you're talking about they should write something about this, but they probably won't.
My concern was that the person who started the complaint about me was the person who that child said abused it, and then another one said that later on. I'm trying to give this to a journalist. I've tried several journalists, and when I was getting done, I hadn't been found guilty, but I knew I was going to be found guilty because it was just obvious. The journalist said, "Neil, you're the story. Yeah, you're the story." And so child alleged abuse in care, okay? But I'm the story. That's how messed up Wales is in terms of the media. I mean, no one's ever reported because I have abuse now, not off many people, 1 or 2. Oh, you're a bully. Oh, you bullied that poor care worker. Well, no, actually. I was trying to find out if the kid was okay. And I'm still in touch with the family, you know? But that kid was worth probably 300 grand a year, 400,000, because of the needs the child had, he was worth about £300,000 or £400,000 a year. He was never leaving care. Never. He walked on his own 2 feet in the end, I'm told. But, I mean, his parents were never getting him back. I mean, that's... so imagine...
People's lives.
Let's sort of take it away from personal stuff, cases here. Hypothetically, you can make 300 grand a year, okay? But you need some nuanced reporting to enable you to make that 300 grand a year.
You're looking for vulnerable people then, aren't you? You're looking for cases.
But is it beyond the realms of possibility that whoever's making that big bucks could maybe just have a quiet word with whoever it is lower down the chain and incentivize them to maybe give more nuanced reports? I don't know.
I think it's very possible, and I think it's very plausible.
I don't know.
I can't say any of these are true, but I think there will be cases, and I think it is very possible.
It's got to be evidence, you see.
No, it has got to be evidence. I know, but like you said,
I'm probably get myself into trouble even suggesting that, but it's occurred to me. I've no evidence. Let me just be clear. I've no evidence to say that. I'm not saying it's happening.
If you thought of it's got to happen. It's got to be.
Well, I've read that. Some of the reports are just mistakes.
Well, it's similar to COVID, in the jabs and the deaths, they were just passing out these, it's COVID for many.
Yeah. I mean, the testing was a nonsense because of if you go back to the COVID stuff, the testing was a nonsense because of the cycles. I mean, a lot of the people that were diagnosed without symptoms, for example, just didn't have COVID. Simple as that. And I think at the beginning, I was delighted they had the vaccine. Delighted. People were attacking me for being pleased about it. And so, don't you know this? Don't you know that? I think, oh God, they sound a bit, And
out there. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. We can get back to normal. Huh? Yeah. And then,
did you have them?
I'll come to that now. And then, so I thought, yeah, I'll have the jab. Yeah, of course I would. Yeah. And then I think something just didn't sit right. And then I had a few conversations with doctors, with scientists, because I was lucky enough to be in the Parliament then. But by this point, things are going on. And then I saw people who had the jab, the first rounds, and they really weren't very well. Yeah? People I know very close to me personally, underlying health condition, really badly affected by the vaccine. And I started questioning things then. I think it came to my time outside of the Parliament. And when I didn't have it now. And it's usually, we used to have conversations growing up. It's better to regret what you've done than regret what you've not done. But I tell you what, that's the best thing I've never done. And I do not regret not having the COVID jab. I'm concerned now at the elevated death rates internationally. I'm concerned that as a local politician, I'm unable to get figures on many things. There's this one particular condition which is a side effect of the jab, and I can't find any data, and they've not given me data. I was able to. They won't tell me how many people died of COVID, not with COVID, of COVID in 2021, 2022 in the Heath Hospital. They should have those figures. They said the data's not available because what I wanted to know was how many people who were well, no underlying health conditions, died of COVID, because initially we were told it was like the Black Death. We're going to have this virus, and a load of us are going to die. It may really surprise people out there to know that there was a Freedom of Information request. What's it called? I think the 007 is in the number of the so Google Freedom of Information request COVID 007, and it'll tell you that 17 people died in the Heath of COVID only at the height of the pandemic in 2021. Really, really, really bad for those people that died of COVID, those 17 individuals. But I mean, in terms of the response and what was done, how does 17 deaths justify that? People die of the flu. They have done it year in, year out, and that was ignored. And my concern with COVID is that there's massive, massive death rates. Where are the investigations? Huge, death rates are through the roof. Heart attacks, huge increase in heart attacks.
It's not from COVID, it's from the COVID jabs.
Well, what is it from? Let's be evidence-driven,
Okay.
data-driven. What's the cause of it? It's only happened since the COVID jab was rolled out. So there is correlation. There's correlation. We need to establish causation. So what's the cause? You need an investigation. It needs to be looked at. And the authorities are refusing to investigate. I can't get straight answers. And there's no politician in Wales, in the Welsh Parliament, talking about this. And there's over my dead body would my son have that jab? And with me, I was offered it actually recently, and I told him he'd have to tie me down. And they would have had to. No chance.
Vaughan Gethin.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Middle-class Dorset boy, really, who for a number of years masqueraded as a docks boy, done well. He's from Dorset, English boy. Went to university in Aberystwyth, came straight to Cardiff to get a political career.
He's not a docks boy.
No, of course he isn't. Did you think he was a docks boy?
Yeah.
No.
Who came up with this story?
He's not a docks boy. Christ, no. He moved. He's a clever boy. He's a clever boy. He moved into Cardiff Bay. Yeah.
Okay.
He lived there, and then he was able then to present his credentials to people who assumed he was from the docks.
Is this some sort of tokenistic thing he's trying to pull then, would you say?
No, quite a clever career move, really.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, not got a principal bone in his body. I remember there was a vote on racism when I was in the Labour Party, 2003. It was the last meeting I ever attended. I felt there'd been, this is the irony, yeah? I felt that there'd been racist behaviour, and I called it out. Did me no favours. And Vaughan Gethin, and he's sort of badging himself now as the black politician, didn't support me and others who were alleging racism. Not that... no, he didn't. And I remember him at the end of the meeting, came up to me and just said to me, tapped me on the shoulder, "You know how it is, Neil." And I knew how it was. Career. Yeah? Don't upset people. Career trajectory. Again, he's one of the new Labour elite. Nobody could sit on benches during COVID. Remember all the benches, taped up? But he could sit down for a picnic with his family. That was okay. I mean, he was a disaster as health minister. Absolute disaster.
He's not even Welsh. This guy's not Welsh.
No. Also, I mean...
Why is his name Gethin?
I just don't know. I think did he call himself Ap Gethin one time? When he went to Betty Campbell, fantastic woman. Everyone loves her now. Back in the day, Betty was really outspoken. And the very people now lauding her, like Gethin and so on, they couldn't stand her back then. She was stitched up left, right and centre. And I think to get top of the ballot paper, I'm sure he called himself Ap Gethin for that election. Because in the surname, you go top of the list, yeah? So you pick up... Some people who don't really know who to vote for, just go for the top one. So it's actually, in an election, it's worth quite a few votes, just being the first one there. And I'm sure he did that. But for me, what sums up Vaughan Gethin was that there was a family... I was on a petitions committee, and there was a family whose daughter died. And if it was a heart condition.
Wait, we need to get this fact checked if he's not from Docks, because this is ridiculous.
Look it up. Google it. Look it up.
I think it's irrelevant where he's from.
Well, no, he's not. No, because there is this talk of him being
where's
a
that
Docks.
That's different. That's different. Well, no, Wikipedia can rely on that.
Yeah,
I mean, my understanding.
Where did you get it? Where did you get your info from?
Good point. We'll fact check it.
He's no Vaughan Gethin.
We'll fact check it. My understanding was I've been saying it for years. He's a Dorset boy.
Yeah.
I thought his mother was born in Zambia. Yeah. Anyway. But anyway, whatever. In a sense,
it don't matter. No, you're
in
right.
a sense, you're correct.
It doesn't matter, but it's still funny, isn't it?
Where does it matter where he's from? It's where you go in the country. But for me, what sums up him was the family had been, and this can be fact checked.
But I think a lot of people from the Docks might vote for this guy on the premise he's from Docks. Is what I'm saying.
Well, he's not, is he? Anyway, so the daughter died, and if she had a heart scan, the condition would have been picked up. And 17 people COVID, all that expenditure, and hospitals and all the restrictions on freedom, which I think it was about really, restricting freedom. Propel is a pro-freedom party, but I think the left and right is gone. I mean, let's continue with this though, back to, I'm sort of digressing, the family. And so daughters died. They want the policy of scans for teenagers so it can be picked up. Preventative medicine, what a bloody good idea, right? He was health minister. He said the number of deaths per year did not justify the scan. So it wasn't a good use of public money in terms of, as I understand, what they were saying was, you'll save more lives by spending money elsewhere, right? And the family didn't really understand that, and didn't agree. I didn't agree. And they wanted to meet Vaughan Gething when he was health minister, and he was too busy, okay? Now, no one's been more busy than me, believe me. I've been in the Senedd, I know what it's like. I've been deputy leader of Cardiff, been a councillor as well, studied law, doing so many things sometimes all at once. So I know how precious time can be. There's no way on earth during a Senedd day that you couldn't get 15 minutes to meet those poor parents who are devastated and trying to do something positive for their daughter, setting up a charity, encouraging young kids to have heart scans to detect this condition. There's no way that he couldn't have found 15 minutes. Yeah, so in the chamber, I mean, well, so when you say, what is Vaughan Gething like? This is the guy I know. I don't know him personally, right? I've never been out with him drinking. Might have had an occasional pint somewhere near him when I was in the Labour Party years ago. So well enough to speak to him. But I mean, that time I called him out in the Senedd. I said he was a disgrace because he hadn't met the people.
Well, you look at Mark Drakeford.
After I called him out, I think he might have met them. I'm not sure. Okay. But it took for me to slag him off. So when you say, what is he like? I examine people by their actions, not what you think of them. So some people slag me off. I've never met him.
Do you think he will be the next Welsh?
Of course he will be, yeah. Of course he will be.
He's primed.
Of course he will, yeah. I mean, seeing it from day one. I mean, obvious, yeah.
There's something I do want to ask you about.
What's the price on him betting? Is it a price?
Oh, there will be, I'm sure. I want to ask you a topic that we've spoken quite a lot about here on the Central Club. We get called out for it. For someone who has fought for people's rights, I would like to know your take on migration. Do you think it's getting out of hand? Do you think we need more migration? What do you think, truthfully? And I know this is a tough one for you, maybe.
Well, not really. I mean, I'm a product of immigration. My grandfather came from the Yemen. My father is English. My great-grandparents were from Ireland. A lot of them, as you can see, I'm genetically Irish, mainly, 20% Arab. So, yeah, I mean, immigration's a good thing. It enriches society, okay? But, and this is the caveat, I mean, it's got to be controlled. I mean, it's senseless if it's not controlled. And, I mean, I find it frustrating because I'm dealing with genuine need as a councillor, genuine need, housing need. And these people are not going to be housed, okay? But then you get people saying, oh, yeah, coming in, we're a nation of sanctuary. And which is not, I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
No, I think it's a great thing.
But all these people are housed. And yet you've got people local to me who the family have paid taxes and so on and so forth, can't get what is due to them. And I think that causes the frustration and the anger.
And divide.
I think it's wrong to put dozens of people, dozens of men from a different culture into a small town, for example, and a small village, because you're changing the character. People in Wales are generally very welcoming, okay? But when we're talking about what is happening now, it causes resentment. I mean, there are 3,000 empty properties today in Cardiff, and yet people can't get housed. But if you're a priority, if you're claiming asylum or from Ukraine, for example, I mean, we've got to rebalance priorities. But the key point is that the government causes the problem, in my opinion, by not sorting things out. I mean, if Mrs. Jones and Mr. Jones had a property and they weren't overcrowded or the damp wasn't everywhere, they wouldn't be bothered about any person coming in being housed as well, because we'd all be happy. But the resentment is caused by the lack of perceived fairness. But I mean, the lack of management of what we've got. How on earth can we have 3,000 empty properties in Cardiff? 3,000? How? And there are people homeless.
It's a large number.
There's 1,300. These figures are accurate as of the 9th of November. Okay, and they've not changed. They've got worse, actually, since the last time I checked. There are 1,300 long-term empty properties in Cardiff. So 6 months, 7 months, 2 years, 10 years. I mean, when I was in the Senate, we ran a campaign highlighting this, and every property we highlighted has now been filled. But to go back to immigration, bottom line is, I think it's a good thing. I'm a product of it. But
We all are, I think.
You've got, of course we are. I mean, I used to call myself mixed race, you know. I don't anymore, because there's one race. It's a human race. It's a human race. One race. It's the human race. I don't like the terminology that's come in now. With,
No, I do. I agree.
Yeah? And that Rosa Parks said that. It's my favourite quote.
Well, I think a lot of people, especially white people, have come to terms with this now. But this is from a perspective of a white man now talking, who is hard to live in this time and not able to say anything. But I feel like people who have fought for rights so long and identity I might get in trouble saying this, but accidentally ostracize themselves by saying I'm mixed race or I'm black. For so long I've been trying to say we are all equal, and sometimes now it's like,
I mean, Black Lives Matter. To be honest, you said, "Oh, have you done things wrong?" I think I got caught up in that a bit, and
I think we all did.
Yeah. So I think with hindsight, some of my comments back then, stances maybe, were mistaken, because I think it was a very divisive movement. It was a money-making movement, as we know now, because they became millionaires at the top. And, you know, I get it.
What is your say on Black Lives? So what do you think of Black Lives Matter as an organisation?
Well, they're all millionaires, aren't they? The ones that set it up in America. They pillaged, you know, they pillaged the money they generated.
It's not really for black people, they say, do they? Like the people who made it.
Well, no, it's sort of a political organisation in America, really. And, I mean, we need to start talking about what we've got in common rather than what divides us.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference with Propel as well, because what we're saying is, well, you know, what have I got in common with you? That's a starting point. Instead of, well, I'm a Yemenis, Arab, Irish, small, brown, Welsh person. You know, Welsh at the end. But I mean, it's just, well, why don't we just say, look, you know, embrace each other? And I think the woke culture is very racist. I mean, they've got segregation now, blacks only. So, wow, you know? And it's like a fetish as well for I'd say, middle-class white people who actually, in my view, are racist. Because I know, I won't name them now, but there are people who've been extraordinarily racist to me, stereotyping me because of the way I look. And all they go on about is race and racism. They wear these badges. I'm an anti-racist. Oh, do me a favour. You know, why have you got to project that? Yeah. And so I find that frustrating, but and worrying.
It's making it an issue, isn't it? Sometimes an issue that doesn't need to be there.
This may sound a bit odd, but what made me think when the Black Lives Matter stuff
George Floyd
was going on, not that. It was just people I knew, and they were getting really annoyed, and actually
you backed the people you knew.
They were saying things which could be construed as quite racist, let's say.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, God, well, they're okay, and they don't usually say that, but it was all this pressure about race, and you were getting a reaction, and I think when society now is much less racist than it was. 70s, 80s, it's much better. It's still there. It always will be. We're all racist in a certain sense. Yeah, we're all prejudiced, right? We're all prejudiced. We are. And what we have to do is recognize our own prejudices and use reason to overcome the prejudices that we may have. We may be prejudiced for very different reasons. It may be the way we may have been brought up by racist parents.
Well, we're all tribal in ways, in the sense of this is Fairwater, that's Ely, that's Lammerony.
It's also the way the human brain works in terms of recognition as well. I mean, but I think we should talk about what we've got in common, which is why Propel talks about Wales, Welshness, our common culture. And, yeah, I mean, we live in a country called Wales, Cymru, where those that run it are actually very anti-Welsh. I mean, there's a St. David's Day march from City Hall midday. We're leaving 12:30 midday. March
It's kind of a bad thing these days to be a national.
It's not a national. It's just celebrating where we're from, who we are, what we are, the history of Wales. So let's march and celebrate St. David's Day. Yeah. The council won't give a penny to it.
Really?
No, not a penny. So
I've always asked this question: why is St. Patrick's Day and St. George's so much bigger than St. David's Day?
Well, I'll give myself a little, how can I say, call out here in a sense. In 2009, I think it was, we started the St. David's Day Festival, right? So by 2012, we had 10,000 people marching. We had events around the city. You know, we had it was great. We were starting. We were on a journey. And then people voted Labour. And in 2013, they abolished it. And the first ever awards in Wales we brought in when I was deputy leader, we called them the Seren Owain Glyndŵr, so the Star of Owain Glyndŵr. And they were awarded to people on Owain Glyndŵr Day, 16th of September. But you got a lot of these people have migrated into Wales. They come with their own prejudices about the Welsh language, about Wales, and they look down on things like St. David's Day. They love St. Patrick's Day. They'll fund the rainbow flag so the cows come home. They won't give a penny to Wales. Why is that? You know, why is it? I find that wrong. I mean, there we go. I mean, but politically, there's a lot to do. And with Propel, that's what we're about, getting things done. But by the time this goes out, we will have dumped a whole load of leaflets in the council leaders' ward because we want to give people a choice there.
Yeah.
And the days of Labour politicians in Cardiff taking things for granted are going. They're not gone, they're going. Look at this area here where we started off. I mean, this was just Labour through and through, and now it's not. I'm elected here. We'll have 3 Propel councillors next time, and we're a growing. We're not a party really. We're a movement. You know,
is it just in Cardiff mainly?
No, we've got members. I'm sort of Cardiff centric in a sense. I'm from here talking about it, Cardiff born and bred. We've got members all over Wales.
That's fantastic.
But the key point is though, where are we strongest to make a breakthrough next time? Only 2.5 years away. And in reality, it's in this area. Got hundreds of members all over the city, and people are going to be hearing from us a lot more because, I mean, I've been quiet for 2 years, tucked away in my books, studying. But then we've all been in the same boat because of the decisions we made to give up, really, our political careers that we had in front of us, and my staff with me, we made collective decisions. They weren't my decisions only, they were collective. We've all had to restart careers, and that takes a bit of time. Yeah. Whereas we're at a different stage now. Our careers are up and running again. Everyone's doing okay. So there's a lot more time being put into politics now.
Neil, it's been a pleasure speaking to you today. Nice catching up.
Yeah.
You're looking great, by the way. You've lost a lot of weight since the last interview. Please check that one out.
Just no hassle. I mean, much happier life. Yeah. Don't have, can I say shit day in, day out in the Welsh Parliament. Lots of pressure, lots of hassle. Probably drinking too much in those days. Just massive day in a Senate. Had a gutful. What you do? Come home, have a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Or call in a pub on the way home, or go for a quick pint afterwards. Whereas now, son's 4, thriving, lovely home with my wife, and everything's good. Really, good. So good. It's easier to focus and exercise and just live a healthy life, really, Callum.
What did you think of the Putin? Did you see the Tucker Carlson?
Yeah,
Putin
I've only watched half of it, but I found the reaction interesting. Oh, he's given the dictator a platform. No, he's allowing somebody to speak, and a lot of what I heard was interesting. I'm not. When you say this, they say, "Oh, you're a Putin fan." Absolutely not. No, but some of the things he said are accurate.
Yeah. I agree.
I mean,
one thing I'm not is a commie or a sympath. I am not. But I'm sorry, we need to hear both sides.
Is there a difference between a communist and a fascist? They meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And there really isn't. And I'm really concerned about what keeps me going in politics in terms of why I want to do it. We're fighting for freedom now. We've lost so many freedoms. Many things we took for granted. My grandfather, so he's from Yemen, he died in the war. Yeah? My mother was brought up, she was born in 1935. She lost her father very, very young because he was shoveling coal into a ship, bringing food back and forth across the Atlantic. Okay? So lots of, some of the so-called English nationalists forget this because so many Jamaicans, Yemenis, people of all colours fought fascism in the Second World War. And my mother used to hide under the table with her mother when the bombs were being dropped down the docks, right? And that the generation of 45 are inspiring.
Special.
Because they sacrificed. My grandfather could have done something else. He could have got a boat somewhere else. But no, they believed in what they were doing. They were fighting something pretty, serious, barely. They were fighting fascism. And their sacrifice allowed us to live quite comfortable lives. But that's changed now. And we're living in a more authoritarian, more police-orientated state where they've got the rights during COVID just to march into your house. And if you just, before I finish this interview, one thing I did wrong in the Senate was vote for the COVID legislation in, I think it was March 2020. Huge mistake. And I really regret doing that. And by the time I'd sort of woken up by September 2020, I voted against lockdown every time after that because none of it made sense. And lockdown, as I said, I'm on record saying it, I said it would kill more people than COVID. Sadly, it is doing so. Many people have suffered due to that, but that was a regret. But so you live and learn, you know?
Neil, what we do with all our guests, I don't know if I've done it with you before, we might have been a late train, but we ask them to leave us with a message on the camera.
Yeah.
It could be, giving the heads up to the next person who wants to be in politics, or it could just be to the people. But if you want to leave something positive, maybe to the people, don't have the camera. In typical Neil McEvoy, right?
What's that then? No, I would say that there's so many things wrong with where we are today. We're losing our freedoms. Lots of freedoms have gone already, and more will go unless we get active. I would encourage everyone out there to listen to what I've said, look at what Propel does, listen to what Propel says, and you guys out there, okay, we're the majority, okay? More than 50% do not vote in Welsh elections, okay? Be that change, okay? I'm on Twitter, at Neil J. McEvoy. Get in touch. Facebook, Neil J. McEvoy again. Get in touch. Be that change.
And without excluding to anyone across the world or in across Britain, maybe anything about maybe a heads up about getting into politics or something.
I'd say
you don't care about anyone else.
No, I think because what concerns me is when people just I want a career in politics. I want to be. Well, if you are driven by passion and you want to make a difference, yeah, politics is definitely one area you can. But it's, to be honest, in the constraints of the traditional parties, it's almost impossible. And I feel sorry for people living in England because there's no alternative there. At least here, there's a small but growing alternative with Propel. And I met a guy recently. He's not joined Propel yet. I hope he does. Went up to Neath. I was in Neath anyway for a meeting, so we had a cup of coffee, had a chat. And I was really impressed by just what was here and what he wanted to do in his community. So he was driven with the politics to be a means to an end. So what he wanted to achieve were certain things in his community, like me in Fairwater back in the day, yeah, when I was younger. And the vehicle for doing that, it's politics. So when you see all these stuffed up old shirts, completely untrustworthy people who not even second-hand car salespeople. When you see these lecturing you and you switch off like I do, I don't watch the news now, okay? I'm very selective in where I get my news from. And there's a mixture of news that I embrace. And it's not the BBC, okay? But they're not, those guys should not be making decisions on our lives, all right? And the fact that they do, it's your fault, it's my fault, it's their fault, okay? We've got to get together with a movement of people called Propel, the People's Movement, okay? And we've got to change things. We have to. I mean, I'm knocking on now. I'm 54 in a few weeks. So, I mean, I want my kids to have a better future. Join us.
Thank you so much, Neil,
Cheers,
for today.
Mate. Pleasure.
I wish you all the best, and I'll hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Yeah, if you want to follow Neil McEvoy on Twitter, Facebook, Propel website as well.
Yeah, we've got Propel.Wales, Propel Wales on Twitter, Instagram as well. TikTok, I'm on TikTok now.
He's on everything. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, guys. Until next time, stay central.
The Central Club.